Hey, Cowboys Nation. Today, we're diving straight into everything you need to know about the Dallas Cowboys as we approach waiver wire season and early roster moves. If you're paying attention to the NFL right now, you know that the waiver wire will be run at noon on Wednesday, but don't expect all the results to come through immediately. It's a staggered process because Tennessee gets first dibs on any claims before the rest of the league even get the chance to move. Once the Titans make their selections, the remaining teams have to wait and see what's left. So, it could take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, or sometimes a bit longer, to fully understand who lands where. Historically, the Cowboys haven't been the most aggressive team on the waiver wire. They make the occasional claim, sure, but they tend to trust the players they already have on their roster. Still, if we're honest about this current squad, there are areas that need attention. Some of the cuts made were smart. Others might leave a few gaps that could be addressed with strategic claims. The waiver wire order mirrors the NFL draft order. And with the Cowboys sitting at 12, they have a decent shot at picking up players who can make an immediate impact. The claiming process is straightforward. Any team that claims a player assumes the existing contract, and they must create a roster spot, usually by 4:00 p.m. Eastern. One area that's attracting attention is the cornerback position. If Trayvon Diggs doesn't suit up for Week 1, rookie Zion Childress could step into the slot. The team has been looking for quarterback depth and corner help, and while defensive tackle is an area often overlooked, there's a clear need there as well. The room feels thin, and frankly, it's concerning. Names like Pyon Winfrey highlight just how depleted the defensive tackle options have been considering he was coming out of the USFL this past spring. The Cowboys might need to make some tough decisions to bring in someone stronger at this position, even if it means moving on from current players. Running back is another position to watch. Miles Sanders is dealing with an injury and there's potential to either cut him or place him on injured reserve to free up space and bring in a stronger option. This kind of maneuver could be smart roster management, allowing the team to address depth issues without compromising long-term plans. Cornerback and defensive tackle are obvious areas to prioritize, and while the Cowboys have a tendency to stick with their own, the waiver wire presents opportunities to strengthen the squad in meaningful ways. When it comes to defensive tackles available, there are a few names that stand out. Zach Pickens, from the Bears, is one to watch. He was a third-round pick, listed at 6'4", 300 pounds, and while he hasn't broken out in Chicago, his connection with the coaching staff could make him a fit in Dallas. For teams looking for a bigger presence, Brick Martin from the Lions brings an enormous frame at 6'5", 330 pounds. His production hasn't matched his size, but the waiver wire is about finding hidden potential, turning someone else's underperforming asset into a valuable contributor. CJ Okoye from the Ravens, also known as Basil, is another interesting defensive tackle option. Originally from Nigeria and a product of the NFL Player Pathway program, Okoye brings a significant physical presence to the field. He's not quite 370 pounds, as some listings suggest, but closer to 330, and he has the potential to anchor a nose tackle spot effectively. Elijah Chapman from the Giants adds versatility. Coming from SMU, though he's smaller than typical for the position, still, his performance in the preseason last year showed promise, especially given the depth the Giants had on their defensive line. Taki Thyman from the Vikings presents another opportunity. He's a depth player who didn't make the cut despite being on a roster with plenty of defensive tackle options, and his size and potential make him worth monitoring. DeMarvin Leal, a former third-round pick from Texas A&M, has been on the bubble for a couple of seasons and could bring hybrid defensive end tackle skills that add flexibility. Overall, the Cowboys have multiple defensive tackle options to explore on the waiver wire, but will take careful evaluation to identify the best fits for the team's system and immediate needs. Switching to running backs, Audrey Estee from the Broncos is an intriguing option. He brings power and size, though his skill set in the passing game is limited. The crop of available running backs isn't particularly deep this year, which makes decisions about players like Miles Sanders more complex. Damon Martinez was a draft prospect who showed flashes but struggled with consistency in training camp. Israel Abanikanda, though explosive, has bounced around multiple teams and might be reaching the point where a new opportunity is necessary. Overall, the running back room requires strategic thinking to ensure the Cowboys have enough depth to weather injuries while maximizing production. Cornerbacks remain a critical focus. Beanie Bishop, out of West Virginia, is an interesting nickel option with good speed and some production last year for the Steelers. Derry Mathis, a former Broncos draft pick, offers inside-outside versatility, though his limited playing time last season makes him a bit a project. Julius Branch is perhaps the most intriguing option for the Cowboys at corner, standing nearly 6'3" with elite wingspan and athleticism. He embodies the type of player that fits the team's defensive archetype despite injuries and a limited preseason. His potential ceiling makes him a player worth serious consideration. Other notable cuts across the league present opportunities for practice squad additions or depth moves. While not every available player fits the Cowboys' needs perfectly, monitoring veterans like Shai Tuttle, Isaiah Simmons, and others provides insight into possible mid-season pickups or developmental prospects. The waiver wire process is as much about reading opportunity and timing as it is about evaluating raw talent. Teams that navigate this period well can turn marginal players into key contributors, and the Cowboys have a chance to strengthen critical spots if they play their cards wisely. As we look across positions, defensive tackle, running back, cornerback, the common thread is the need for depth and readiness. Injuries, performance issues, and roster limitations make these moves crucial. Some players may not have produced consistently in the past, but the Cowboys' system, coaching, and developmental approach can transform potential into on-field impact. The balance between patience with current roster members and strategic acquisitions from the waiver wire will define the early part of the season and set the tone for how this team handles adversity. The decisions made in this window are amplified by the order in which claims occur. Tennessee always moves first, and subsequent teams like Dallas need to be prepared to act quickly when the right fit becomes available. The goal is to fill gaps without overreacting, adding complementary pieces rather than forcing ill-suited players into roles. Every move must consider not only immediate contributions but also long-term roster flexibility. Continuing with the Cowboys' waiver wire strategy, running backs are a spot that demands close attention. We've already talked about Miles Sanders and his current injury situation, and the team has to make calculated decisions on how to maximize this position. One approach could be moving Sanders to injured reserve temporarily, giving the team roster flexibility while allowing him to recover. That opens the door for other backs to step in and prove themselves. Audrey Esteem, from the Broncos, stands out as a potential power runner, someone who can move the chains in short yardage situations. He's not the most dynamic option in the passing game, but his ability to impose himself physically could complement the existing backfield and provide relief for Dak Prescott's offensive scheme. Damon Martinez is another intriguing prospect. Many analysts had high expectations for him during the draft process, and though his camp and preseason performances were inconsistent, the Cowboys have historically been able to develop talent that didn't immediately shine elsewhere. Martinez has the kind of explosiveness that with the right coaching could turn him into a viable contributor. Then there's Israel Abanikanda, a player with a rare combination of height, weight, and speed. He hasn't had much of a chance to prove himself yet, bouncing between teams, but his athletic upside is undeniable. The Cowboys could take a calculated risk here, adding him to the roster or practice squad with an eye toward midseason development. Depth in the running back room is essential, particularly given the physical demands of the NFL, and securing multiple options ensures that the offense can remain versatile even if injuries strike. Shifting focus to the quarterback position, the Cowboys have several potential waiver wire additions that could make an immediate impact. Beanie Bishop, who comes out of West Virginia, offers quickness and productivity in the nickel role. He's not the biggest corner, but his speed and ball skills make him a capable slot defender. Parkeggio Derry Mathis, a former Broncos pick, provides flexibility as both an inside and outside corner. While his playing time last season was limited, his athletic profile suggests he could step in and contribute in specific defensive packages. Then there's Julius Branch, the tall, lanky corner with elite wingspan and athletic testing numbers. Branch has had some injury setbacks, but the combination of size, reach, and speed makes him a potential game-changer if he can stay healthy. He fits the prototype of what the Cowboys look for in their defensive backs, particularly for teams that prioritize press coverage and length at the quarterback spots. Other corners who have recently been waived provide options for depth and situational roles. They may not all fit the immediate starting roles. Their presence on the practice squad or as backup options allows the Cowboys to maintain rotational flexibility throughout the season. Cornerback depth is critical, especially considering the modern NFL's reliance on passing offenses and complex route concepts. Every addition that enhances coverage, ball skills, or situational awareness strengthens the defense, and the waiver wire offers an efficient avenue to acquire those pieces without sacrificing long-term roster planning. Offensive line depth also factors into waiver wire considerations, though it's less dramatic than skill position moves. Players like Cole Strange, a former first-round pick, are now available due to previous team miscues. While he may not be the ideal fit for the Cowboys' current offensive scheme, keeping an eye on former high-round picks for potential reclamation or depth is always worthwhile. Kenyon Green, another lineman who might have been in Dallas' plans, went to another team, but his profile is similar to the type of player the Cowboys typically target: versatile, athletic, and capable of competing for starting roles if needed. For the offensive line, it's less about immediate starters and more about ensuring that backups can step in without a significant drop-off in production. defensive ends, and hybrid edge players also populate the waiver wire, offering situational pass rush potential. Isaiah Land and Julius Wood, two players with previous ties to the Cowboys' scouting attention, are back on waivers. Their presence reminds us that roster management is an ongoing process, and sometimes the team must reevaluate players who were initially passed over or released. These players often fight for their NFL lives, and acquiring someone with previous exposure to the team's culture or scheme can reduce the learning curve and potentially yield immediate contributions. As we look at linebackers and safety positions, players like Isaiah Simmons and Mike Hilton are worth monitoring, even if they're not immediate fits. The Cowboys can use this period to assess situational talent and evaluate how players with NFL experience or specific skill sets could enhance rotational depth. Dane Jackson, a cornerback available on Waiver, provides similar value for defensive flexibility, capable of contributing both at corner and in the slot depending on the defensive package. Nickel and dime packages are increasingly critical in today's NFL, and having versatile defensive backs allows the Cowboys to adjust to opposing offensive trends week by week. In addition to the more obvious positions like running back, cornerback, and defensive tackle, special teams contributors can also provide hidden value. Depth in the kicking game, punt and kick coverage units and return specialists often gets overlooked, but the ability to plug in reliable special teams ultimately, the first wave of waiver wire moves sets the tone for the season. For Dallas, balancing loyalty to current roster members with the need to address gaps and potential weaknesses is critical. Defensive backs with elite length and speed, rotational defensive tackles, power backs who can move the chains, and versatile offensive line depth all form part of a strategic puzzle. The front office must carefully evaluate each opportunity, considering not only talent, but health, readiness, and long-term roster impact. Every player added through the waiver wire represents a calculated risk. Some will flourish immediately, while others may take time to adapt. The Cowboys' ability to identify which players have the right combination of talent, scheme fit, and physical readiness will influence early season performance and help maintain competitiveness across the first quarter of the NFL calendar. By focusing on positions of need, exploring high-upside prospects, and maintaining roster flexibility, the team positions itself for both short-term impact and sustained success. The story of the waiver wire is as much about strategic foresight as it is about talent evaluation. Defensive backs, running backs, defensive linemen, and situational contributors all hold the potential to shift the balance in close games. By monitoring available talent closely, acting decisively, and prioritizing both upside and positional fit, the Cowboys can ensure that the early weeks of a season are approached with depth, resilience, and tactical advantage. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In what is already being whispered as one of the most astonishing developments of the NFL offseason, rumors have begun to spread like wildfire that a blockbuster trade between the Cleveland Browns and the Dallas Cowboys has been confirmed, sending superstar defensive end MYLES GARRETT to Dallas. While no official statement from either front office has been released, multiple insiders and close to the situation voices are quietly hinting that the deal has already been finalized behind closed doors and only awaits the league's procedural rubber stamp. If true, this would mark not only a shocking separation between the Browns and their most dominant defensive player of the modern era, but also an emphatic statement of intent from the Cowboys, who appear determined to transform their defense into one of the most feared units in professional football. Garrett, who has been a cornerstone in Cleveland since being selected first overall in 2017, has consistently been regarded as a generational talent, blending rare athleticism with relentless pass rushing ability. The idea of him wearing the star on his helmet is already igniting waves of speculation among fans and analysts alike, who are scrambling to interpret how such a monumental shift could reshape the balance of power across the NFL landscape. For Cleveland, the whisperers suggest that this move was far from an impulsive decision, but rather the culmination of weeks, if not months, of backroom deliberations, financial assessments, and strategic sources close to the Browns organization hint that the trade package they received in return is massive, though details remain clouded in secrecy. With vague references to high draft capital and possibly established talent heading to Ohio, the franchise, often criticized for inconsistency and mismanagement, now finds itself under the spotlight once again, as critics and supporters alike debate whether parting ways with Garrett signals a bold long-term vision or a reckless gamble that could backfire spectacularly. Behind the curtain, whispers point to internal tensions, with some suggesting that Garrett himself had grown frustrated with the organization's direction and had quietly expressed a desire for a fresh start elsewhere. If that narrative proves Accurate. The Cowboys may have swooped in at the perfect moment, leveraging discontent into a deal that could redefine their defensive identity. For Cleveland fans, however, the very notion of losing the face of their defense, an anchor, a leader, and arguably one of the league's most feared defenders, feels like déjà vu in a franchise history already marred by painful departures and unfulfilled promise. Meanwhile, in Dallas, the rumor mill is spinning at full speed as the idea of Garrett joining forces with Micah Parsons has been described by some as nothing short of terrifying for opposing quarterbacks. If this pairing becomes reality, it could instantly give the Cowboys the most formidable pass-rushing duo in the league, capable of wreaking havoc on even the most disciplined offensive lines. Analysts are already theorizing about the creative schemes defensive coordinator Dan Quinn might employ, envisioning blitz packages and alignments that would leave offenses with no safe options. The Cowboys, long defined by their offensive firepower and star-studded skill positions, seem to be recalibrating their identity with defense, now taking center stage as the potential driving force behind a championship run. Cowboys fans, known for their passionate and sometimes polarizing optimism, are buzzing with excitement at the thought of Garrett donning the iconic blue and silver with social media ablaze with mock-ups of his new uniform, while skeptics caution that building a championship roster requires more than just a few headline-grabbing names. The whispers of this move have nevertheless electrified the atmosphere around Dallas, creating a sense that something extraordinary is on the horizon for America's team. What makes these whispers even more fascinating is the way they ripple across the league with rival teams and executives, now nervously recalculating their own strategies in light of this potential seismic shift. In the fiercely competitive NFC, where playoff berths and home field advantages often come down to razor-thin margins, the addition of Garrett could tilt the scales in Dallas's favor in ways that reverberate far beyond the stat sheet. Coaches and quarterbacks alike are said to be watching developments with a wary eye, knowing that facing a Cowboys front anchored by Garrett and Parsons might fundamentally alter how offenses prepare week to week. Meanwhile, insiders speculate that the ripple effect could also influence free agency, with defensive players intrigued by the prospect of joining a suddenly elite unit in Dallas, while offensive players may gravitate toward teams better equipped to counter such relentless defensive pressure. For Cleveland, the rumored package of draft picks could set the stage for a rebuilding effort that reshapes the franchise for years to come. But at what cost remains the central question haunting fans and analysts. The sense of unease, mixed with anticipation, lingers like a storm's end cloud as the league waits for the first official confirmation of what could be the defining trade of the decade. Ultimately, whether this trade proves to be the masterstroke that propels Dallas to a long-awaited Super Bowl or a cautionary tale of high-stakes gambles gone wrong remains to be seen. But the rumor itself has already ignited a level of intrigue and debate that few offseason stories can match. For Garrett, the whispers carry the weight of reinvention, suggesting a chance to redefine his legacy not just as a dominant individual talent, but as the centerpiece of a championship-caliber defense. For the Cowboys, the buzz signals an organization unafraid to swing for the fences, hungry to reclaim the glory that has eluded them for nearly 3 decades. For the Browns, the murmurs force a reckoning with identity, priorities, and a delicate balance between short-term competitiveness and long-term sustainability. Around the league, fans and analysts alike are left hanging on every rumor, dissecting every hint, every cryptic social media post, and every vague comment from insiders, as they await the eventual unveiling of the truth. Until that moment arrives, the story of Myles Garrett's supposed journey from Cleveland to Dallas will continue to grow, fueled by speculation, passion, and the timeless allure of what-if scenarios that make the NFL offseason as captivating as the games themselves. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions.